2, 3, 4.
Run up your engines! Today I'm going to tell you the truth about a Toyota oil burning engine. In this case, it's in a 2008 RAV4, and what it is, a 2.4 liter 2AZ FE engine. Now what happens is, as these engines age, they often start to burn some oil. It was a design flaw. They basically did not design the pistons and the piston rings correctly, and then oil gets burnt because instead of sealing the oil from the combustion chamber, the oil goes by the piston rings and is burnt inside the engine. Now it's relatively easy to tell if your engine's burning oil. If it's not dripping on the ground and you're losing oil, just take out a spark plug, and if you find the end of the spark plug has a bunch of built up carbon, it's all hard and it's starting to clog up the spark plug, you got an engine that's burning oil. Now when I was a young mechanic, Chevrolet made these Vegas that had serious oil burning problems. Their mistake was they built a car that had a cast aluminum block, but a cast iron head. It was kind of a stupid design to begin with. Why would you make one light and the other heavy? You should have made the whole thing aluminum. But regardless, this cast aluminum block had pistons that went up and down with piston rings, steel piston rings. And for some crazy reason, the engineers convinced GM they could spray on the inside of the aluminum block to keep them from burning oil. Well, fixed, didn't last so long. Sometimes those things have 20, 30,000 miles on it, they'd wear out, and they'd burn oil like mad. A friend of mine had one. We had to put a quart of oil in that thing about every 50 miles of driving. It was absurd. Now, GM only had two real solutions. One, you'd have to take the engine apart. You'd have to put stainless steel sleeves inside the block and then put it all back together. They should have built it that way in the first place. Or just put a cast iron engine back in them, what some guys did. But going back to this Toyota, now we got the valve cover off. You can see the timing chain, you can see the cam here. See, it's nice and shiny. The oil's been changed a lot in this vehicle. There's no sludge or anything. But if you wanted to fix the oil burning, you would have to take the entire head off the engine, replace the piston rings, usually the pistons, and that costs you $3,000 to $5,000. Now, the strange thing about this problem is sometimes Toyota fixes them for free, sometimes they don't. I've had customers had new piston rings, new pistons put in by Toyota for absolutely nothing. They stopped burning oil. But I've also had customers, they wouldn't do anything for them. They'd say, oh, it's too high mileage, it's too old, but really, they know it was a design flaw. It's not like these people didn't change their oil regularly. As with the Chevy Vegas, it was a design flaw. Now, they don't burn oil as bad as the Vegas did, but for a perfection company like Toyota, kind of annoying to have a Toyota that burns oil, especially if you maintain the vehicle well. You change your oil all the time and it still burns oil. It's a design flaw that they should stand behind, regardless of the age or mileage of the car. They know they messed up with this particular engine. Now, they didn't make the block wrong like Chevy did in the Vega. This does have an aluminum block, but this has cast iron cylinder liners. So the pistons don't ride up and down on aluminum like they did in the Vega. They ride up and down on the cast iron liners. The problem is they didn't make the piston rings and the pistons correctly, and those are the parts that wear. The main problems are these four-cylinder engines from 2007 to 2009. Those are the main ones that really burn oil. They obviously had some kind of production problems from 2007 to 2009. Now, they don't make these engines anymore, but they had a long run. They started in 2000 and they ended in 2018. But for the 2007 to 2009, they had a lot of problems. Now, Toyota claims that over 1.7 million of them were made that can have this problem. And they say that they will perform a test on them if they're under so many years and so many miles to determine if they need to be rebuilt or not. But Toyota never gave any figures on how many they actually rebuilt of these 1.7 million. They're not telling us, so we have no idea. And unfortunately, I see this all the time from most car manufacturers. They'll put out some kind of, oh, we screwed up, bring it in and we'll check it out. And from my experience, 9 times out of 10 with my own customers, they'll say, oh, that's not covered under their warranty. That's a different model, or that has too many miles, or yada, yada, yada. They're always making excuses. Now, other than the oil burning, it's actually a great engine. And since it's cast aluminum, this one, with cast iron liners, So it's got liners. The piston rings wear out in the pistons, but it's not like they blow up like the Chevy Vegas did. They didn't have anything lining them. They were just bare aluminum. These things will continue to run, but they do burn oil, which is a bad thing in a modern car, because if you burn oil, it's going to clog up the catalytic converter. Then you have to buy another catalytic converter. It'll ruin the oxygen sensors. Even though it's a little bit at a time, still eventually damages the vehicle. And of course, if you're not big on maintaining your car all that well, I had a customer of mine last year, and she was never checking the oil in her Camry, which had the same exact engine as that. When I checked it, it only had 1/2 of a quart of oil. Out of 4.5 quarts in it, only had half a quart left when I changed the oil. She's lucky it didn't blow the engine up. And I have seen engines blown up in these things because they ran out of oil because the people didn't realize they were burning oil. Of course, Toyota has such a good reputation. A lot of people just drive and they don't check anything. They don't check the air in the tires. They don't check the oil in the engine. They don't check the coolant because they're used to a car that just runs and runs and runs. They don't have to do anything to it. So let's say you got one of these engines and it is burning oil. Why don't you just make a copy of this video or leave it on your phone? Go to Toyota. Tell them, hey, that's not fair. You need to put new piston rings and pistons in this engine. You guys messed up. You should stand behind what you've built. I've personally got involved in some of my own customers' cars, and guess what? Magically, they got their engines rebuilt by local Toyota dealerships. I mean, I make no bones about it. Toyota makes really good vehicles, but they messed up on this particular design, especially the 2007 to 2009. So if you own one of these Toyotas, you just need to go to the sticker. And look here, if it says 2AZFE, that means it's one of these engines that can burn oil, especially if it's a 2007 to 2009. Because wouldn't it be great if my video gets you a $3,000 to $5,000 repair job done for free? And here's some bonus questions and answers. Shirella19 says, I got a 2012 Mazda 3. Check engine lights on. It says P0011. Camshaft timing over advanced. Help. Those things have variable valve timing. They're very complex systems. You want to pray you really don't have a problem in that system. You didn't give the mileage, so I don't know how many miles you got. And if you got really high mileage, they do wear out. They also do something that I see all the time. If you haven't been religious about changing your engine oil and filter, that will clog up the VVT system and it'll trip that code. I see that all the time. I've had so many people bring me cars, either drive them here, or if they really run like crap, they tow them here. And they got that code. The first thing I do is check the oil. And if it's black and dirty and sludgy, and I see, wow, it's really bad. So I'll put a quart of engine flush in it, and then follow the directions, let it idle for 15-20 minutes or so, then change the oil and filter, put new oil and filter in, and many times that fixes the problem entirely. The code doesn't come back because dirty, sludgy oil will trip that code. I see it so many times. It would make your head spin. Change your oil and filter, and if it's really dirty, have a mechanic flush it out first. See what happens then. They could easily fix it. And if it does, change your oil more frequently. On that particular thing with that high-tech engine, I don't care what anybody says, I would still change the engine oil and filter every 5,000 miles in that thing. Billy's a twirling 9.6 says, I got a 2012 Chevy Equinox 2.4 liter. It intermittently stalls when I come to a stop and there are no codes. I tried spark plugs, air filters, checked for vacuum loops, can't find anything. Help! Generally when they stall, it should trip some kind of code. On that vehicle, the most common thing is an electronic failure in the computer system. When they go bad, they often don't know they're bad. It's like a computer that's gone bad doesn't always tell you it's gone bad because it's gone bad. It's kind of a vicious circle. Make sure you don't have any vacuum leaks. Check your fuel pressure. Make sure the fuel pump's working. But if you check all that stuff and that's all normal, Dollars to Donut says you have a bad PCM, the powertrain control module. On those GM products, that age, it's 8 years old. PCMs go bad a lot, and it'll just turn the power off. The last time I fixed one of those, I road tested it. I watched it, and as it died, my computer recorded that event. When I looked, I saw all the fuel injectors were shut down and then it stalled out. And it was the PCM that drives the fuel injectors. It was shorting out internally, turning the injectors off, and the car stalled. Odds are, if everything you checked is true and the fuel pressure is good too, you probably got a bad PCM. Have it road tested. And then when it dies, he'll analyze it. If he sees fuel injectors just dropped off, odds are you need a PCM. You can check the wiring. The wiring could go bad too, but generally the wiring's just plugged in, so unless it's rubbed a hole somewhere, it's the PCM, the main computer, the powertrain control module, that goes bad on those. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.